we're not even going to bother with the intro song tonight, right? Because we have just done a 15-minute pod to ourselves. We literally just set
The
up
one
the show.
time we on time and we fuck it up.
Forgot to hit the live button. Oh, I've not missed anyone
on the
by
bus,
the way.
folks. Professional.
Oh my! I
It
can't
was
even
class
be
enough.
playing the theme song. I'll play the theme song on the way out. I mean, I
Aye.
thought the intro. I thought my actual opening gambit was pretty poor. By usual standards, this one's even worse. But I cannot believe I was like, "There's something no right here." The comments weren't making sense. I thought they were on a delay, and I was like, "What the fuck are they on about being late? Why would I be late?" I'm sitting here giving the best part of my life here. And I'm like, how come it's not telling me how many folk are watching live? It just says scheduled. I was like, I'm going to come out and go back in and see if I can work this out. And I realised we didn't actually hit the fucking live button. So there we go. It was a good 15-minute show, though, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies that I've missed out. So we'll just kid on, right? That I've not asked you already. Hi, lads. How the devil are you?
I'm doing brilliant. I'm doing brilliant, mate. That was the best 15 minutes of my podcasting career and all that.
We had some good banter, mate. We were raving about John Puska becoming a Bhoycie Bus member. We were saying that with that membership fees that we've got so many accumulating now that we're going to spend that beginning of December in G4 Studios and do an actual professional recorded podcast. We might actually get 2 out of it. That'll be the plan. We'll do a bus stop with Phil, maybe extend it. Maybe I'd be a bit like Piers Morgan and Cristiano Ronaldo, Phil, you know. But I might just dish some dirt on some bastards want to slag off, you know, putting your name on a t-shirt and all that nonsense today. Can they rev me up, you me fanny? You know what I mean? But yeah, we had that conversation. We then thought about maybe just sticking 12 to 15 pounds, you know, on our next live ticket if we ever do a live show again, God forbid. But if we do, you know, we could do a wee meet and greet. And the judge was telling us that he was going to stick an extra £1 on for a smile. And it was about then that we realised we've just been sitting chatting away to ourselves and absolutely nobody else. Connor, you were in the Brazil talk for Ronaldo. You told us that. I think I've caught us all back up, haven't I?
Yeah, we're all caught up, mate. Aye, that's us.
Aye, happy days. Right, we're back.
Hello,
back
everybody.
in the room. Hi. Right, okay. I didn't feel myself after not hearing the song there as well. What am I meant to say? Yes. Right, here we go. Right, Celtic got beat 2-1. What a shambles. Celtic got beat 2-1 this morning. It was a strange time for a kickoff. I watched the first half. Believe it or not, on the bus, not this bus, but on a bus. I do get buses sometimes. It's not why the show's called the Bhoycie Bus. Anyway, I'm digressing again. But we started the game though. When you really realistically look at it, there is nothing for us to worry about because for me, it was a team that, on the face of it, even the midfield alone, when you name the midfield, Turnbull, Abildgaard, and who was the other? I'm all over the place here, man. Itaguchi pulled out of nowhere. I'm not sure those three have even met before, let alone played in a match before. The fullbacks are very much Andy's second choices, albeit we think Ralston is, you know, just nudged ahead of, you know, I'm sure Barcelona bound Juranovic. And obviously at left back, Bernabei continues to entertain, shall we say. Kyogo got the start up front. Abada, obviously a more familiar starter as well. And then, of course, you had James Forrest, who I think is probably there getting vital minutes, to be completely honest with you. Starfelt, vital minutes for him. And Welsh came back into the team. We expected it as well. Welsh to get some game time in Australia. Phil McGinley, come to you first. We get beat 2-1. You know, my favourite phrase now. Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate. We're getting some mileage out of that, but we better watch any copyright strikes on that as well.
Big James Ingus
the legal team will be in contact with us soon, Russell. No, before we realised that we weren't live, I was talking about when it comes to my mentality friendlies years ago. We lost one under Gordon Strachan back in 06. Man United dealt with us really handily, and after it, as me and Mark were talking about, was apparently there was a cracked Celtic crest in the news the next day, and Gordon Strachan said, this is the only club in the world that can be in crisis after losing a friendly. We went on and won the double that season, the SPL and Scottish Cup. So losing friendlies from then on, I'm just kind of like just shrug my shoulders and go, just to get fitness in the legs. And looking at some of the players that started the day, that's what it really was, a fitness exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think that's a fair way to sum it up, Mark. We're not going to learn anything really from this tournament unless I think we got beat fucking 8-0 or something. I think that would be the only time you'd maybe sort of, it would really pique your interest, you know what I mean, in terms of the result. Yes, you'd prefer to win. I'm sure Ange would definitely prefer to win on home soil, but from a Celtic point of view, I think we're just there. We're there for the money, aren't we? Really, let's be honest.
Well, I did see some people were doing a 43-hour journey to get there, so they folk probably deserve to see a better performance. But listen, we're going to make £6 million out of this. This is, as I say, this is going to cover Jota's signing on fee. So for me, that's an excellent bit of business by the club. It was all about exposing the brand as much as possible. I saw a video of JD Sports in Australia. The place was packed. It was a meet and greet. Guys that only see superstars like Ralston, etc. On the telly. They got to see them in the flesh, and I thought it was a good exercise by the club to kind of open the doors a wee bit and do a wee press conference outside with the backdrop of Sydney Harbour, etc. You do that in Glasgow, you've got seagulls shining on your jumper. So good to see a wee bit of a different backdrop for Celtic, you know, and as I say, opening that, is it the third wall they call it, the fourth wall on TV? Like the fans kind of get fourth wall. Let the fans see a bit more of the players. And it's a box ticking exercise, but the Celtic fans in Australia will have loved that, and money making exercise, and 2-1 defeat. But the big match is the first game after the World Cup, mate. So take it for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Connor, I'm very much in the boat that the two lads have sort of suggested so far. I just think it's a tournament commercially makes a hell of a lot of sense for Celtic. In terms of the actual players that got minutes, I think that made sense for Celtic as well, to be honest with you. I mean, Ideguchi must have been looking at the football the first 50 minutes like it was a foreign object. You know what I mean? People like, well, get in mind to play football. But yeah, I think on the whole, the guys that got the run out was needed for them. And to be fair, from the first half that I saw, I've watched the full highlights since, I thought Sydney looked an all right team. I mean, I think, you know fine well, there'll be those who just can't, look at anything objectively. Will now be saying Sydney would probably win the SPFL. They'd probably be a good Champions League side and all that, just to sort of sugarcoat it all. Yep. I don't think they were quite that. But what I would say is, and again, ignorance is always bliss with leagues like the A-League, and forgive me for that, but I think they were probably a wee bit of a higher standard than I would have initially thought. And I don't mean that in a cheeky way. I generally think they were a decent opposition for us to have today and deserve the win.
I mean, what I've seen for them, I mean, there's only so much you can take if you're watching, a mid-season friendly. It's more of I'd say a celebration, Ange Postecoglou, than it is like a competitive tournament, even though it's kind of being billed as that. But the only thing I will say about them is, for what I've seen, I think if they were to come in the SPFL, they'd probably be comfortably sitting in second now. So.
Yeah, I mean that's. I just think it's one of these tournaments as well where I didn't expect it to be played this early. They seem to have touched down, Phil, and then it's like, get your training gear on. But like the coaches outside were going to a game, I was a bit surprised. If I was one of the players, I'd be like, I'm still getting my photos outside the Opera House and all that. Do you know what I mean? Let us bed in for a wee while. It's not 5 weeks till the World Cup finishes, for God's sake. What's the rush? Do you know what I mean? Let's relax. So I don't know. Maybe it suits, the schedule in Australia, and we've had to bow to that a wee bit. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But it did seem a wee bit early bells. I mean, I've never been to Australia. The furthest I flew was Vegas, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't have much chance of getting my fucking body clock back on song over there anyway, to be honest. I wasn't going over there to play football. I would have to say, though, those long flights, they do give you like jet lag and all that. I mean, some of the players must have been going, fuck off with your game of football already. It's a bit early. We're only playing twice. It did seem It did seem earlier than expected. Is that fair?
I think so. I mean, I know the Everton schedule is they're playing this coming Sunday and next Wednesday. I don't know if Everton even flew out to Australia yet, but yeah, they're a bit more spaced out, and they are there. Okay, for this and but yeah, something about it when I saw the schedule of it, it was like, yeah, this is to help the players' fitness during the World Cup, and I'm like, the World Cup kicks off on Sunday, and we're playing the second game of this tournament on Sunday, and there's still 4.5 weeks to go before the next game, so. I take it they're going to have some bounce games behind closed doors or something, because what good is it to go out here for these 2 games to keep fitness up and then just come back to Glasgow and just training every day? There's got to be something going on behind the scenes at Lennoxtown, I'd imagine, because otherwise, how are they going to keep their fitness up ahead of coming back for the SPL in the middle of December? So yeah, the scheduling does seem a bit odd, and you thought they might have announced maybe a few more games, like friendlies as well, but no, that seems to be all we're getting.
Well, Mark, maybe they're just lubing us up for the old Ange Poster. This is me off the drink too. I'm fucking worse than ever. But maybe they're just getting us even excited for that big announcement that Ange is signing a long-term deal over in Australia. We can still dream on that one, Mark, can we not?
Not the first time I've heard Las Vegas and lube in the one sentence, boys. No, I actually think. Just to let Phil know, but we're getting about a week and a half holiday at the players as well. So maybe
right.
It was a warm weather training camp as such. Then a wee holiday break. I think all the teams in our league are giving their first team a holiday. I think Rangers are taking 2 weeks. I saw a picture of Morelos yesterday. Looked like he was wearing an old camera spill on his face. I don't know what the fuck he was wearing.
Speaking of
He's
Vegas,
been to Vegas. He's done a full strip, hasn't he?
He was there when I was there.
Oh, he was there. Oh, for fuck. He looks like somebody just blew up somebody, didn't he? Well, that's an athlete, I know. And he's actually a neck to our league. But anyway, I think Celtic are using this as I think they're using this as a mid-season break. I know we didn't start our season later than normal because of the Champions League qualifications, but we've crammed a lot of football in. I think we've played over 20 games already. And which doesn't sound a lot, but it must be a lot if the players are feeling it already. Put it that way, and I think that they're going to use this. I agree with you, boys. I think what your point was more towards was we arrived and then we had a game so quick. I think you were meaning we arrived on the Monday and we played on the Wednesday. I think we should have had 3 or 4 days to get used to the climate. I mean, my dad went there to work. He got a full 7 days before his first shift to and he's not an athlete. He just looks like one. But no, I just thought it was a bit weird myself because I've had to all that in tune with this calendar. Do you know what? I knew we were flying out the other day there, but I was a bit surprised when I looked at my calendar on my phone and I seen we had a match this morning. I thought that's pretty quick. You know, I thought a wee extra day or two I would just take this tournament for everything it is, and I would juice it up. I would get Anjo on talk shows. I'd get some of the players going about the schools. I would just soak it up. I wouldn't mind Celtic using the full 2 or 3 weeks ago and keeping the players out in Australia, let them holiday in Australia, bring the families out. Dean used to do that with Celtic. He'd bring out families and things like that just to say to them, look, you're on holiday. Some of your time is going to be downtime. Just stick together. You're in the very best of hotels. And I think the players would have loved that. And I think one of the things that Celtic players, I always get back to the Lisbon lines, I speak about them every week, I think, but they did a 5-week tour of America in 1966, I think it was, and every one of them talk about how character building that was, and they reckon that was a big part of building the Lisbon Lions was that tour.
Yeah,
I'm not suggesting that a 3-week holiday in Australia would do that, but 3 weeks with your family and the wives get to know each other a bit better. The kids get to spend a wee bit of time there with their dads when normally they're at work, you know. And I just thought it'd be a good idea for just to squeeze it. You mean they could have flung in a couple of open training sessions in a college, because I think there's a lot of college football teams out there that's maybe got a good campus that would easily house a couple hundred fans that'll go to a 3 o'clock kick-off on a Tuesday to see Celtic play the university team. Just squeeze it out, and that's what I like about this tournament. I think it has been excellent promotion for the club. Take away the results, take away the opponents. But one thing that would have been really funny is, can you imagine that we go Giovanni sacked for beating him in a friendly. Can you imagine that was next week? Because he would be the first manager I think that I remember for getting the sack, for getting beaten in a friendly. Albeit it would be the 500 defeats before it that got me sack.
Aye,
Yeah.
but that was an opportunity missed, wasn't it? That was. I mean, really,
man.
we should have been like, oh, come on. Are you sure you don't want to come along? Come on. Bring those arches that says Old Firm with you. Come on, for old time's sake. Bring that along.
I mean, they could have brought that bus. Remember that bus that went on fire? Remember there was a bus, Rangers bought a bus that would cost 350 grand.
Right.
And the owners at the time was the guys who owned that. Is it McGill's buses? I think it was, right?
Aye, okay.
This bus was an absolute belter. It lasted one match and it went on fire. It's never been seen since.
Fucking hell.
The one you just think about that over your morning conflicts.
Just how much did you say a
bus
was?
350 grand, something like that. You know what I mean? There you go.
Just so I know they're going rate for a bus these days, you know.
Oh yeah.
This bus.
Keep up, Phil. Come on.
No, this wasn't a Bhoycie bus. This bus had wheels. No, this had coffee machines, TVs, probably a buffet for fucking Morelos to munch on. You name it. This thing was top. I remember because we played in. This was actually the first season in the third division. They bought and
wow.
Aye, and they bought this bus. It was like a spaceship, you know. And
so they
were kind of using this as a. What's that?
They've reincarnated, right? And obviously it's because of like bad spending before. And their first buy as a new business is, we need a 350 grand bus. Like, well, it's good to see they're really learning their lessons these days. You know, they've screwed the nut. This Franco Sandaza driving it.
Well, listen, that's the thing. See, when I think about their time in the third division, I think of three things, right? Mm-hmm. I think of the ball in the bushes. Yep. I think of them playing a match inside a theme park with a Ferris wheel behind them. You remember that? And then I think of that bus. And I just think to myself, what a fucking club. See if you wrote a film about them, it would, or a book, it would be fiction, wouldn't it?
Aye.
Funnily enough, I mean, half of the lies on the truth.
Yeah, reality stranger than fiction.
Aye. What's that?
Reality stranger than fiction.
They get fiction buns, didn't they? Anytime they speak, they can't.
But I don't know how we're talking about Rangers in the third division, but it's always a nice place to go to if ever in need of light relief. Never forget it happened. And the first signing was a McGill's bus for 350,000.
It was an absolute belter. It was not to disappointment in 5 minutes.
Not to disappointment. That's good, pal.
Russell, we get Joe P in the comments here saying she's made it. Oh, Joe, if only you know how this show started tonight, you have no idea.
Joe, we
really didn't make it.
We did a 15-minute pod without actually hitting the go live button earlier, so we've just had to dive straight in now. We're a bit all over the place, to be honest with you. It's thrown us, but that's okay because Connor, who have you had your eye on? Who do you think still got a chance in this tournament? Obviously, we can now get the gist from that lineup, right? That Ange's using this to get, not just minutes in the legs, but give guys an opportunity so he can see what they can do in relatively competitive sort of matches because of the level of opposition both Sydney and Everton will provide. Do you think he did Gucci start? I thought he's kind of came out the blue. Let's talk about him a wee bit. For me, I thought I've said on the show about a month ago, I said I think he's gone, to be honest with you. He got a start today, which would suggest maybe the door's still a wee bit ajar on the likes of Ideguchi.
It was kind of, to me, reminiscent of the starting ball and goalie against Livingston in the league. It just kind of came out of nowhere, totally unexpected. And I guess it's more palatable to give him some minutes in a friendly in Australia as opposed to, even giving him a game in the Scottish Cup, against lower opposition. So I think that's kind of more what it was. It was kind of just more, all right, we're on it, and like when you go, have fun. We pat in the back when you go Gucci. But I think that's kind of the more vibe it's getting me. I could be wrong, and he could maybe, I don't know, come in and get a couple of games here and there for the end of the season. But As far as I'm concerned, I think if he was to get his chance with, McGregor being out, and, done a lot of swapping and in the midfield this season, I think he would have got his chance already.
Well, it's interesting though that because there's certainly areas of the team where we think we would like to see further strength in it. We don't mean just padding it out for padding's sake. If there was going to be, Phil, players coming into the first team squad that are going to be offering, a decent level of cover for our first 11, then I don't think we need to venture in the transfer market for that. But to flip that, we would maybe quite like to see that coming from the youth setup, because under Postecoglou, whether people take this as criticism of him or not, I personally think it's Ange just hasn't been all that impressed with what he's seen in Scotland so far, not from our youth setup nor across the leagues. In terms of ability, that's why I put it down to. But it would be quite nice to see a homegrown player maybe provide some of that padding in the squad, as it were, as opposed to a 32-year-old journeyman coming in, for example. Can't think of a name right now off the top of my head. But when I think of players like Lawal coming in, is that how you pronounce his surname? And he looked okay. So. He looked okay from what I've seen, Lawal. And apparently, if you read all the reviews, he did very, very well and looked like he'd came on leaps and bounds, some are saying, from the summer. Could there still be a chance for a young player maybe to become, and I'm not saying a first team regular, but a first team squad regular? And I certainly think there is scope for that at Celtic when you look at some of the guys we've bought in for either fees, loan fees, high wages for Celtic standards, in the 5 figures. And you're thinking, there's got to be someone in that youth. If you scratch the surface enough, there's got to be some. And maybe Lawal, who's been taken on the trip, gets to come on. Maybe he could be a surprise package, because I think it'd be fair to say the judge below us hasn't been convinced with the fourth choice being Stephen Welsh this season. He's been pretty vocal on that on the Sunday Blether with Regan, particularly at the start of the season. And I wonder if maybe, that position, we don't really need to buy for a fourth choice centre-back. It would all depend whether Ange's happy with the other three that he's got going hell for leather for the 2 places, toe to toe. I wonder if maybe there could be a surprise package that comes out of this tournament like a Lawal. Do you think there's any scope for that? Is that why he's getting minutes?
This is a tough one, because we've said it quite a few times during this season about Ange's perception or how it seems to come across when how he regards the younger players now. And I don't think a lot of it is the players' fault themselves. I just think the system that they're in at the moment isn't doing them any, benefit for their progression and their development. I think this, lower league setup there, they're allowed to play in the Lowland League and they're not allowed to get promoted or relegated. So effectively every game they're playing is a glorified friendly. There's nothing on the line. So I feel like it's kind of stifling a lot of the progress. And we see all the players that have left in the last year, went down to like Liverpool, like Ben Doak, for instance. You don't really blame them, because even if they're going down there to play for these teams' reserves, they're going to play against guys that are actual professionals. But right now they're playing in a system, they're playing guys that aren't even full professionals. So I think that is having a massive effect on the progress of a lot of these guys. I think if we had a proper reserve league setup, I think some of these players would have got more opportunities. Games in the League Cup, for instance, would have been a great chance for it. We've got obviously Scottish Cup about to start in January as well. The likelihood is we're probably going to draw lower league teams in that when we're in the 4th round, when there's like 32 teams left in the hat. So there's a chance there. But it just feels to me like if somebody's going to come through, it's going to be a real rarity, I feel, at the moment. I agree with what you've said many times, Bhoycie, about I just don't think Ange sees much in the youth at the moment. But as I say, I don't think it's a lot of the players' fault. I just think they're in a bad system where they can't get to maximize how good they can be. That's my problem with it.
I think that I think I'm pretty on board with most of that, Phil, to be honest. But Mark, I'll come to you, because see, when it comes to the setup right now, I'm not sure what the right way is, because if you've got youth players just constantly playing against youth players, I don't know if that gets them first team ready enough either. I mean, you watch a lot of these former pros talking about what was brilliant for their development. They talk about the reserve league, and they talk about playing against actual, adults, seasoned pros, things like that. Now, there's going to be a plethora of those in the Lowland League. There's not going to be, any, it's not going to be a complete, every club just flooded with under 21s in it. This is a league with full of seasoned pros who've been there, seen it, done it. know all the naughty tricks in the park. So when you think about it that way, I think the intention was this is a more competitive version of the reserve league. I think the fond memories that some former players have of the reserve league, I think is slightly tinted glasses. I think a lot of them just go, "Oh, I was playing against Juninho." Do you know what I mean? What an amazing learning curve that was. But were you playing against Juninho really? Or were you playing against someone just running about going, "What the fuck am I doing?" Do you know what I mean? At Broadwood. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is ridiculous in front of 30 folk. And I just wonder if maybe they look back at some of the names they played against. I don't mean Celtic players here. I mean like players from other clubs. And I just think the idea behind it was to try and get the reserve league sort of vibe by playing against, obviously not professional footballers, but a lot of them are former professional, full-time professionals. They are still professional footballers, sorry, but full-time. A lot of them maybe have been. Some of them have probably played to a decent level in Scotland. And I think it was trying to recreate that, but in a competitive environment. But then as Phil touches on, you kind of then hamstring it by going, but you can't get promoted. And then that knocks that competitive edge back out it, because where's that hunger for our Rudy Vatters of the world? Scott, how he's calling him Rudy. It's Rocco Vatter. Rudy Vatter's about 50. I don't think he's in the under 21s. Monty didn't miss that one, did you, Monty, son? But I think when you look at it, does that take away that competitive edge? But did the reserve league ever have anything where, you know what, you're going to win the reserve league? I don't know how much that was coveted at the time. I'm sure, again, it gets looked back on with tinted glasses that, oh, that was amazing when we won that. Did they really feel that at the time? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm not quite sure what the solution is for our players that are in the halfway house mark. And what I mean by halfway house is guys that are 20, 21, not got enough experience to get in our first team, not played enough competitive games, but Celtic want to keep them in the Celtic models. They want to keep them at the club. This is the closest thing we've got. What else can they do unless they're firing them out all out on loan? But then again, you've got to pick the club that you're putting them on loan to very carefully, Mark. I've given you about 45 different points there to chew over.
No. I think I watched the highlights for the Dunfermline match last night. The B team get beat 2-1 and they were absolutely rotten, boys. The defending was all over the place. It just looked, even the goal they scored just didn't look like a Celtic goal. It was just, it looks nothing to what the first team are playing like. And my observation of what was happening was, the idea was, so Celtic's first team and their under fives were all playing the same system. And that's the way Rodgers did it, and it just doesn't seem to work that way. Like, the team looks rotten. I think a solution to this is, I think that there's a rule in place where you can only play 5 first team matches, and if you play any more than 5 first team matches, you can't play for the B team, right? That has to be looked at.
That's right.
Playing with better players is going to make you a better player. It raises the standard. I also think, you look at the countries in which this works. They normally drop these teams into the second tier, right? Our second tier is probably one of the most competitive leagues in Britain. So hard to come out of. It's really competitive. Almost every team there's parity all the way through it. There's some top class players at a lower level, but any team can beat anybody. I'd probably say 8 times out of 10 there's a good match in the Championship in Scotland. Yep. 11 Celtic, Rangers and Hearts who have dipped their toes into to playing that Championship. Okay, knockout, relegation and promotion. Extend the league by 3 teams. That actually creates a bit more excitement from the fans. I would go and see a wee Championship match against a very good Queen of the South or something like that. You know what I mean? If it was like just now, there was no games on. But also, they're playing against better players. There's a lot of publicity for that league. But also, you've got to expand that rule. I'm not saying it should be you can play for Celtic on the Saturday and play for the B team on the Wednesday. I think there should be scope, leave it further to bring first team players who are just coming back from injury, put them into the B team for a couple of weeks, allow that to happen. Put your guys like Bain, who isn't getting a game now, bring him into the setup during the week with some of the youth players, raise the standards of the goalkeepers. You know what I mean? And that goes all the way through the team, midfield. Like, for instance, you mentioned Juninho there. I mean, you're right. He'll be strong about that part. So what the fuck am I doing here playing against? But see if guys like, I don't know, an out of favour James McCarthy playing in the B League on a Sunday against a better Championship team, that raises the standards when about him. That's a guy who's Still got a lot to give. Maybe not at the top level for Celtic, but it'll raise the standards when about him. That raises performance levels. It builds character within the squad. It makes the dressing room kind of see a standard and say, right, that's where I want to get to. If I've got any chance at this club, I look at the B team and I'd probably get the same message as Ange. I don't see anything in there. I think Vata looks very good. Lawal, I'm quite confident that he'll be a fit-up player. The guy just looks like he's going to forge a career out of being a centre-back. What level that is, I don't know. The guy's just started for Celtic. I can't judge him, even though I judge everybody, to quite honest with you. But
the clue's in the name, like.
They call me a judge for a reason. But I think there is a solution there, boys. This is what I'm going to talk about later with my wee segment.
Excellent.
See Scottish football.
A teaser.
Wee teaser, mate. I have to find a wee teaser. See Scottish football. We've got blinkers in Scotland, right? We don't look beyond our own back garden. We don't innovate. We don't stretch boundaries that are already there. We just stick to the status quo. We tend to be scared to make changes. We tend to criticise changes that are made, and we tend not to adapt to them very well. And this is part of the problem with the youth setup, boys. So you can't have. I think our B team is probably where it is just now. A mid table team, top 5 team in that league it's in just now, in that lower league, right? Okay, right. That's getting us nowhere. Raise the standards in what they can perform at by giving them a wee bit more of a budget. Let them sign, for talk's sake, other Scottish players from the Dunfermlines, from the Clydes, from the Partick Thistles. Let them build up a youth setup within an actual first team structure. Put them in a higher league, i.e. the Championship. Let them play in the Blue Cup, etc. But that's where it works in the Spanish league, the German league, the Portuguese league. They put them at a very high level because, all right, there's no relegation, but one thing's for sure: if you get a coaching setup that you trust, you put in place, and you're giving them 5-6 years, they don't get sacked every year like the first team do. They will get better gradually. If you allow a certain maximum of wage structure within that, maybe no more than 100% more than what the top earners get in the Championship. So you can double the wages, but you can't spend too much. Put all that in place. Let's look at something we've not done before. Don't just look at wee box tick exercises and just make it simple and bog standard. Do what the Germans do. Just tear out the paper, start again and look at it, and then try and fix it for the bottom up. And Scottish football, we see it with VAR, we see it with this, we see it with multiple other things. We don't take innovation as something that we need to strive for. We take it as something that happens and we'll catch up when everybody else is already 2 streets ahead of us.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good. It's a good teaser for what's coming later, and I think you're absolutely bang on the money. Connor, we're getting suggestions coming in from the likes of Charles Smith, Hill Times 2. Thinking about, well, for the youth setup, for it to thrive, what about having another version of Celtic, like maybe the City group do, with their, is it Melbourne City they've got and things like that, New York City, things like this, and you go, it's not stop Celtic doing that on a very, very small scale. A League of Ireland club's getting suggested in the comments, maybe do a Salford, you know what I mean, and take over, our English club that are in the 9th tier, and then before you know it, you can just kid on at Celtic anyway. We all know that's how it works. So, if they start getting up through the leagues, but I mean, these are the ideas where you could really have your youth in more, competitive environments that are slightly different and not as backward thinking as the Scottish model's always going to be, as Mark so, cleverly touches on there. Do you see Celtic ever doing something like that? I mean, we're sitting there, as I say almost every show, on a £30 million cash surplus that we don't seem to know what to fucking do with. There's an idea.
I mean, it's a good idea, but I think looking at the
already, there's a butt already. He's right in there.
I think when you look at it, Scottish football is run by absolute fucking dinosaurs, and you would have to go through applications and fucking mountains of paperwork to get it set up, and then you'd have to be doing communication between our league and the next again league, and how would their fans feel about it if this new team came in, because we've already seen some pushback for the Rangers being the Celtic B team going into the Lowland League, and some of the fans for that league go, that's just fucking shocking. You're giving them a buy-in and all that, and it's just there's resistance to these things when it comes to their supporters and that, and I feel like we always say that Scottish football, it kind of likes wrapping itself up in this wee blanket and kind of like in bubble wrap. And it doesn't like being prodded and poked and stuff like that. So I think they would just
what
take
can Scottish football do though? What could Scottish football do to stop Celtic?
I think they'd find a way. I mean, they've been trying.
Sure.
They've been trying to find ways to fucking stop us by, progressing and winning
within our own country, but not in someone else's football association. Buying a club, you'd be dealing with completely different authorities. Do you know what I mean, Connor?
I mean, I guess you're right, but I feel like there's a lot of. I think also Celtic as well, the board and that, they're also very old school, and they also don't like a lot of forward thinking and planning. I think that's when you see people like, the Brendan Rodgers, Ronnie Deila to an extent, these Martin News, these managers who want to be innovative, take things forward, and I'm sure Ange Postecoglou, even though he hasn't really given the B team and the younger boys a lot of, time and that, I think he wants them to develop. He's a student of the sport, and he wants to see young players come through and progress and get better, just like he did when he was, managing clubs when he was 11 years old and stuff like that. I don't think he's as, dismissive of it as what maybe it seems on the surface. I think he's maybe just not had as good an opportunity to give them time, but he'd probably be up for that. But would the Celtic board be? That's the thing. They don't like, rocking the boat and giving, these managers who want to do new things and try new, techniques and styles, doing different, bringing out different products.
This is it. But the fact of the matter is, though, something's got to give there, because you can't just be sitting on a big bag of cash forever. If you're not going to invest in the first team, we're still buying, spending in the summer a record fee of what, 1.5 million or 2.5 million on Ivanovic as the top paid fee. I know folk will say Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers, but I've discussed this already. That money was there. They couldn't have been on signed to buy options, but anyway. But I think, when you actually look at that level of ambition, yeah, you're right, it's maybe not there, but what is it for? And the one thing I would push back on as well is this can't be because a manager's giving the club the vision, because managers come and go, right? Managers come and go. This has to be because Celtic need to have, and maybe the idea could come from a manager. You might need to geographically relocate here for your club, like not the actual full club, but your youth set up elsewhere, and try and build a Colts team, maybe an English FA, an Irish FA, whatever it may be, because we can't be pinning it on them going, oh, well, if a manager wants it, we can't do it. We can't think like that. It's got to be Celtic who's now wanting to do this, because whatever the
customer wants for Bhoycie.
The fruits of that labour. The fruits of that labour as well, though, you would only... sorry, Mark. The fruits of that labour, though, you would only find out what they are long after any manager had left that might have been there at the beginning of it, because it would be years and years down the line. But it's all about succession planning. And right now, Celtic, when we look at it, and I've made the point a million times, when we knocked out Ajax 3-1 in 2001, right? We knocked them out away from home, 3-1 away, an unbelievable European forms. Who kicked on for there and who didn't? It wasn't the team that won that kicked on. You now look at the Ajax setup and you think that's beyond us, whatever it is they're doing. But it's not. It can't be beyond us, because we were level pegging within my lifetime. We were ahead of them within my lifetime. And that was only 6 years after they won the Champions League. So there is undeniably ways. And I'm not saying it's got to be the idea. It's just because these ideas are coming up there. But the one thing I would say is, don't let if Scottish football you think is going to be a hindrance, guys, let's not let Scottish football be that hindrance. Look across the water. If they're in the road, and I also would always say as well, if a manager comes up with an idea, brilliant, but don't just hinge your idea based on a manager, because managers' shelf life is 2 to 3 years. Celtic's shelf life is forever. And right now we need to stop looking short term at, oh, we've kept the manager happy for 18 months, 2 years, the fans are on side again, let's pull the fucking rug again. Do you know what I mean? Right, that's what we can't afford to do. But we will get now to the day-to-day reality, Phil. I know you'll like this one. We spoke about it on the breakfast bar. catch up with that on YouTube. It's done brilliant numbers this week. I think it's got record numbers for the breakfast bar. So a big thanks to everyone who's caught up with that. And Phil, we were talking about a player. I said in the summer, you said in the summer. I don't know what the judge said in the summer. Joseph Juranovic seemed a player to us that would be an obvious one if an asset was to go. He was on every single one of us said, if the Celtic were to sell an asset in the summer, like they do most summers over the last sort of decade, they sell an asset every summer, bar the 10-in-a-row disaster, and bar, ironically, of course, the summer we had this conversation. But Juranovic was the name we all thought, firstly, I think he'd be open to a move because there's always three reasons why a player would go. It's either the player wants to go, the club wants him to go, or his agent wants him to go. Or, of course, you've got the alternative, the media's stirring trouble. In Juranovic's case, we suspected in the summer on the bus, I think he might fucking fancy, moving already. You know that. Then there was a rumour a month ago. Now it's apparently it's went a step further than that. The reports are he's actually rejected a new contract, which would suggest when he's already tied into 2026, it could only have been a contract on improved terms to try and keep a player who wants away happy. Otherwise, that contract is, well, it's not needed, right? It's not a required contract with someone who's got three and a half years left in the deal. So it could only have been improved terms. If he's still turning that down, Phil, where do you stand on that? For me, once January comes, let's hope he has a good World Cup and may the highest bidder take him. And good luck to him.
If it's all true, what you've just said there, then if he doesn't want to be here, then so be it. Better players than Josip Juranovic have left Celtic in the last 10 years in this player trading model that we're in nowadays. And we've done just fine since then. Look at guys like Virgil van Dijk, for instance, players of that calibre have left us and we've moved on and evolved since then and just made it pretty clear. I think last year he said something about he's not going to keep players that, don't want to be here or chase players that aren't interested. Don't remember the Riley McGree thing where he put a quote out there about if the guy didn't want to be here, he wasn't basically going to waste his time, essentially. Convincing him, well, if Josip Juranovic has made up his mind that he wants to move, then thanks for the year and a half, Josip, but so be it. You move on, and that's that. As I say, better players than Josip Juranovic have left us, and we're doing just fine. And I trust that Ange will replace him suitably. I think he's got the network and the scouting nuance to find us somebody that can do just as good a job. And at the moment, we have got a pretty competent right back in Anthony Ralston, but obviously we will need more than just Anthony Ralston for the rest of the season. That's Ange's job. But yeah, that's where I stand on it.
No, I think that's fair. Well, Mark, should we come to you on this one?
Yes, please. Aye.
How do you go, mate?
I think, well, you look at, he signed for Legia Warsaw for a season, strapped his knickers, spread his arse cheeks and came to Celtic the very first offer he got. He would have done the same for Celtic and the drap of a hat or the drap of knickers, should I say. To me, his name love's lost. See, anybody, we found out what happens when you keep players that don't want to be here. Look at Tua and Ibrox. There's Kent and Morelos there. Big part of the affairs this season is having two players that are very unhappy in that dressing room. I'm not suggesting for a minute he's unhappy at Celtic, but if your heart's on it and your brain's on it, I don't want you there. And I think he falls under that category. Also, I've said it a few times, I think Josip Juranovic is outperformed by Anthony Ralston almost every scope. You know what I mean? Ralston outperforms him in his work rate, his tenacity, his maybe his leadership as well. I think Tony Ralston's the kind of guy that leads for example. He just gets forward.
After scoring an OG.
He does, and Joseph Bhoycie, that still annoys me. I've still not seen the penalty he missed in Real Madrid. I'm going to assume that he tried to back heel it, knowing the cunt, you know what I mean? And we spoke before, boys, about how it's going to be so paralleled. You can say you want a player to start without hating the other guy and want him deported to Rwanda. I just like Ralston because for me, he just ticks the boxes and he's, I don't know if about that, but I think, do you know something? I think that's why you've noticed the last few weeks that Ralston's been getting more game time. And I don't think it's been because he's done more in training than what he's done before. I think it's preparing himself for life after Juranovic. And I think him being dropped for the squad altogether the other day, I thought was all right, okay, he was protecting them for the World Cup, but I think he was protecting an asset, because I think they see the World Cup as being as a short window. Get his lipstick on, get him dancing in that Amsterdam fucking window. You know what I mean? Let all the suitors see him, and I think that's what it's all about. And playing a hat trick against Dundee United, as he got his price tag in it, but a good performance in the World Cup. Might just put a wee extra million or two into it and take the money, say thanks very much, good luck to Croatia for having the best right back in the world, and we'll take the bricky Tony Ralston every day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, Connor, where do you stand on it? I mean, obviously, I think it's very interesting, obviously, that there's the Juranovic sort of narrative, shall we say, among Celtic Twitter was slightly beginning to turn a bit. Now, whether that's because, some of the guys in the comfy seats week in, week out had got wind that perhaps he could be for the offing, and that's why that narrative's suddenly getting spun, and suddenly they're trying to get in early by saying, I don't think he's all that important. It does seem it's been one hell of a turnaround, because it was that OG I was referring to with Matt, where he walked away smirking, is actually what triggered that tweet that I sent out, where all hell broke loose, right? And genuinely, I was more annoyed at that point. I mean, I called him a decent player in that tweet, right? But what I was more annoyed about, you need to remember, was, and I didn't articulate that in the tweet, I probably should have with hindsight, but what I was trying to get across was, fuck him. He's walked away smirking after an OG, like, I can't believe that's happened to me, sort of thing. Whereas Ralston, is either getting the ball at the net and launching it straight up the halfway line whilst dragging his heels, head down, shaking his, gutted. And I just felt then, I went, he's getting a wee bit big for his boots here. That's just something about the reaction. It wasn't so much a wry smile as a smirk. That's maybe my interpretation. I could be wrong, Connor, right? But for that moment, I thought maybe this guy is, what I feared he might be in the summer. And that's, looking to get out at Celtic, not scoring own goals deliberately or anything. I don't think that. I just mean he's made the mistake and he doesn't really care because he's kind of checked out. And that was the kind of impression I got from it. I could be wrong, and people can, disagree with that. That's absolutely fine. But now we're in a situation where Mark's right. There's no way Ange is, resting Juranovic to protect him for the World Cup for Croatia's benefit. Fuck that. This is very much with his eyes on how big a prize can I get for Juranovic, and that will be diminished massively if he picks up a knock before the World Cup and doesn't feature at it. Chances are, if he's fit, he will play at the World Cup. Unbelievable, but good on him and well played. Getting to be that right back. I can only doff my cap to that. And if that's the case, he has a good World Cup. January might be the perfect time, Connor, to sell a player who actually already wants out, but for maximum value.
I mean, after every World Cup, as soon as a player performs at a decent level, they might not get very far in the competition, but if they perform to a decent enough level, the price goes way up because it's on such a global stage and all eyes are on them. And I think he is going to be their starting right back. For what I've been reading, I think he's going to be their starting right back in the competition. So I think it's probably guaranteed to get a good run out, and it'll be playing against some good teams. So, and apparently when they were playing in the Nations League a few months ago, apparently had a very, very good game against France. So I feel like Ange and maybe even the Celtic board are being pretty clever with it. They're like fucking Mr. Krabs out of SpongeBob. They're just seeing fucking dollar signs in their eyes, saying, right, we can get some good money for him, and we can capitalise on the absolute fuckery that is, the World Cup in Qatar at fucking middle of Christmas. So, because we tend to not sell a lot of players in January. I've kind of noticed that, we don't really sell a lot of players in January. It's always the summer and we let, one go. So I feel like if we were to, sell a player of Juranovic's, I guess quality, if you want to put it that way. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I feel like you always got to fucking put a caveat in saying, but I think he's a good player. I think he's a good player because, everybody's got their favourites and I think you're fucking slagging him, but you're not. Which,
yeah, I know.
Which I'm getting sick of now because, like, if I'm not sitting here like fucking some now are saying he's shite, get him out. I mean, I just happen to prefer Tony Ralston because I think he gives more of a shit. I've seen him at the friendly today when we conceded that second goal, which was a good goal, but he looked fucking raging and he looked upset. And it's a friendly during, just doing a bit of training really in warm winter training camp. But he looked fucking raging and he was putting in tackles and he was trying really hard and he was trying to muscle players off the ball, And I don't think Ange suffers fools, and I don't think he lets players, give any less of their commitment. But you wouldn't blame players for maybe not putting in that tackle or not putting in that tiny bit extra effort. But Tony Ralston doesn't do that. So I think Juranovic goes with my biggest blessing to the World Cup. I hope you have an absolute fucking brilliant performance, and I hope you're absolutely sensational, and you make us £30 million. Okay, but for me, it's even if we got £30 million for Juranovic and we spend 10 million on a right back, right? I don't care how good he is. Tony Ralston's my starting right back until that guy earns his jersey for me.
Good point, Connor. Good point, mate.
I think that's fair, but I mean, Phil, I take Monty's point here as well. Brilliant to have you on the bus, Monty, as always, mate.
Always.
And he says, if we want to progress, though, in his humble opinion, we need to bring in another right back, preferably from Croatia, to start ahead of Ralston. He says he likes Tony Ralston, but he's not convinced we can't do better, which I think one thing we need to be abundantly clear on is no one wants it to just be Tony Ralston right back in the second half of this season, unless the availability of a right fucking belter is dependent on bringing him in the summer and Ange has that all pre-planned. Then I'll take that. That's fine. But we don't want the whole vibe we've tried to give when we spoke about transfers in this bus, Phil, has been improve every position that you possibly can at any moment you possibly can in any window. If there is a player available and that's a person of interest that Celtic can afford and would be keen on a move to us, and they are better than who we've got in our first team, I don't care which one of the first team is it that loses out because of that. None of them. Don't care because, and I think Ange's preparing us for this. Don't fall in love. Don't fall in love because this is going to be fast-paced trading, and I'm going to watch your club's bank balance is about to soar, and the level of player is about to go up quicker if I do it this way. I think Juranovic will be the first case and example of this. It seems almost like amongst the supporters there's an inevitability about it as well. Phil, would you agree with that? And you do expect, obviously, if that is the case, that part of this January mastermind that Andrew's already got laid out, apparently, would involve a right back coming in?
Well, I was actually going to mention that. It was not last week. There was a story that he's got everything sort of in place or planning is well down the road regarding January. So you've got to imagine it's something like that. If any player is going, it's going to be Juranovic.
He said that interview from Zagreb Airport, by the way, just so you know. So he said that.
Yeah, I wonder who was visiting out there. Aye,
money.
But no, if anyone is going to go, it would be. I can't see something preposterous happening like the ill-fated 10 in a row season with Frimpong left and we replaced him with a lone John Joe Kenny. Nothing that crazy would happen. I could see a significant replacement being added. But as I said earlier on, Ralston is a decent enough player. He's shown it more than enough. We were all big advocates of Tony Ralston on the bus, and Celtic fans in the last few years have been so turned around on him, after where he was when you think about it, before Ange arrived. But yeah, we do need more than just him. And Ange will know that. He's a savvy enough guy. He knows what we need. There's no way that we're going to continue with just one right back for the rest of the season. So I could definitely see some sort of investment coming there. And I would be surprised if that is part of what Ange was alluding to about, plans are sort of well down the road, essentially, regarding January. So we just need to wait and see, I guess, how it goes with the World Cup and Juranovic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's one area of the part, but it should also be a sort of a warning shot, Mark, for everyone in that team. That despite the highs you might have felt 5 months ago, and having dewy-eyed moments in the park and all that, this can turn very quickly here. And I'll be ruthless if I think that you're at your peak valuation spell, and it might only be 18 months into your tenure at Celtic. If I think I can get the most money for you at that moment in time, and there's potential suitors, you'll be gone unless you're desperate to stay and show no signs of leaving. But if I see I think you might be up for it, and I think I get my maximum money for you. You'll be off ski. I think it's quite good because I think some of the players at this moment in time are loving life at Celtic, Matt. Loving life. And it's just a wee kick up the balls for them. Do you know what I mean? They need to take your eye off the ball at any point because Ange will, just like that, pull the rug under your feet and it will be a see you later.
Well, I saw a video the day actually, Ange in a dressing room, and he's a quote to one of the players that says, "You can't get lazy because I see fucking everything." I think Ange does see fucking everything, mate. And he did. He was going right through them. They probably won the match 5-0. Just judging with some of the things that he says, he just strives for perfection, which is a good thing for any manager, any industry. But I think you're absolutely spot on. I think very early on, we spoke about it pre-season, not just about Juranovic, but you can almost see when a player's head starts to get turned, and I think you can almost see it in a performance, but you can also see it in how the manager gives him game time. And I think if there's ever a player in the squad that's got an example of how not to perform or how not to strut about the park when you're Billy Big Boys, they can see it in Juranovic because his performance levels have dropped, but with Ange, we just don't take it. And I think if there's anybody in that team that's got a similar opinion to what he's got to know, I think they'll know that Ange won't stand for it. I mean, Joe Hart mentioned about how at 34-year-old he's made him get excited to get on his work. Ange brings a new lease of life into players, you know what I mean? And he looks like an infectious character. And no in terms of his personality, just his love for the game, what he brings to players. We talk about Greg Taylor most weeks. We talk about even the way he's brought on Callum McGregor. He brings every player on. I don't care how high you're performing, Bhoycie. This guy will make you better. If you're not getting better under this guy, it's because you're maybe peaked and you're on the downward trajectory. And I think if there's any player in the club that thinks they've peaked at Celtic, I don't think Ange will take that either. But if there's any player that thinks that they've maybe got one step out the door, I think he'll push the other leg out the door as well.
Aye, I think that's a good way of putting it, Connor. It just keeps everyone on their toes as well, because I think Juranovic undeniably does seem a popular figure around the first team. There's no two ways about that. He does come over like he is one of the more popular members of the side. I think it would send sort of shockwaves if he were to go. Do you know what I mean? But what we'll do, Connor, with yourself first, is we will go to the viewers because there is loads of points coming in and it is meant to be a forum and all that. And we'll always keep forgetting that. But we will go to the forum because people are wanting to put in plenty points as always. A lot of them in response to what we've been talking about already, of course. But I'm just going to try and pick one at random here. There's obviously a wee bit of concern here. Gucci Trutter comes in. Put this one to you, Colin. We'll just sort of go round the clock where we each point for the next sort of 10 minutes or so. So player trading is all well and good, but is Ange going to keep getting dealt slow midfielders? He doesn't feel like too many of the players have felt like Ange signings. I'm not sure what to make of that, Colin. I'll let you decide.
What, just in the midfield?
Well, yeah, he's talking about midfielders being dealt slow midfielders that never start games. Too many of those signings. I think he's obviously if we look at Moy, Abelgard, Ideguchi, things like that. I mean, is he talking about, McCarthy? Is he talking about guys that he doesn't feel are Ange signings? Is that what Ange is getting dealt? Do you feel Ange is getting dealt midfielders, on his behalf? It's hard to imagine.
I don't honestly. I think if Dermot Desmond walked into Ange's office and said, all right, okay, you want this player? No, you're taking this player who's not got an engine, who's absolutely terrible. Now, I think he'd stand up and rip his fucking moustache right off his face. So I don't really think that, I don't really see that happening, although I do feel like they may come to some sort of compromise. But if you do look at the midfield, our normal starting midfield, right, normally is McGregor, Hatate and O'Reilly. And I think all three of them have got a relatively decent engine. McGregor and Hatate maybe more so than O'Reilly. But because of Callum McGregor's injury and he's been out for so long, they've had to play Moy. And I think we played McCarthy. I can't even fucking mind. Did we play him in a game recently? I think we did. Was that fucking St Johnstone?
St Johnstone, he was involved in the winning goal. Crucial.
I forgive you, James. I forgive everything bad.
What a vision I've got in my head to
do. So I think when you look at it, and last season as well, the midfield shifted between McGregor, Hatate, Rogic, O'Reilly, between them four. So it kind of swapped about between them. So I feel like I think it's maybe more down to circumstance, and if we are getting a few players in January, we might see another midfielder come in, because I don't think Moy will be here past next season. He might stay one more season. He's not here for long term. We know that already.
Yeah.
McCarthy, I think, is out the door. Ideguchi, I think, could be out the door as well. He's hardly getting played. So that's the three players we're getting there. The only one who is the enigma for me is Abelgard, because he doesn't strike me as an Ange player, but going up until we signed him, all we asked for was big, strong holding midfielder. We had a big, strong holding midfielder, and then he signed him. He came in, and I don't really know what to make of him. People the day were saying doesn't look up to the standard. I don't think you can really judge a player off a pre-season friendly or mid-season friendly too much. I mean, he's not really got many minutes. He's made his debut in a fucking Champions League game. It's all been a bit very bizarre around him. So I think I feel like I say sorry. I think we'll just have to wait and see.
Aye, that's fair. No, that's fair enough, mate. And I'm glad that I can't grow a moustache. Phil, over to you, mate. Why are we not scoring when we're totally dominating the games? We're getting 20 to 30 shots at goal. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, this is something that is came back to haunt us.
For the comment,
yes, indeed, Gary. Thank you very much. Yeah, the Champions League this season, that has been a big Achilles heel. I said that when we did the Shakhtar home game or one of the Leipzig games, whatever. I said the team that wins the Champions League might not even create as many chances as we did in that group stage. There's a chance something like that could happen, because it was absurd the amount of chances we were squandering. What is it down to? I mean, the word I keep using is composure. I just feel sometimes the way that both Kyogo and Giakoumakis just thrash at shots. Sometimes it's just like, we take a touch sometimes, compose yourself, but it always feels like they just go for something that's not there half the time. And then there's other ones. I mean, was it the Shakhtar home game? There was that ball that was knocked across to Kyogo. He's centre of the box, the header. Yep. And it's like you always get plenty of time. There's no defence around him. The defence is literally parted. Control it, take it down, try and blast it past the keeper, and he went for a header. And it was just like, to me, it's composure reasons. I don't know why, because last season we talked about Giakoumakis being the first-time finisher. You just one chance or one touch.
I know.
Aye. But for some reason, maybe it's something that we've said about that he's trying too hard maybe recently, and we can understand why that's happened.
Unsurprisingly, I see it from Giakoumakis' point of view more. Unsurprisingly, and I admit that there maybe is an element of bias, but I do feel that when you're in and out the team, and it doesn't seem to be like, am I getting rewarded when I score goals? No. Okay, I've got 10-15 minutes here. I need to score 2 goals in that time to really make a case for the start of the next game. Do I feel like the opposite striker's getting a more than fair crack of the whip? He maybe feels like that, and that could lead to trying too hard. Kyogo's one's probably more curious, Mark, isn't it? Because for all that we can wave our banners of Giakoumakis, and love that guy, at the end of the day, Kyogo was fucking magic last season as well when he was fit. Let's take nothing away from that. He was brilliant at scoring those tap-in goals. He was brilliant at scoring creative goals from outside the box. He was one of these players that took to Celtic instantly, hit the ground running. That's the saying I'm looking for. He hit the ground running where others didn't. Where others needed time to settle, Kyogo didn't. And I just find it really interesting he's having this strange second season syndrome where he does it. He's still a top scorer, by the way. And the goals Celtic are scoring are more, are very much spread across the team. But undeniably, Gary's saying, the amount of chances we create to our goal conversion is probably still pretty lopsided, not in our favour. Kyogo's, I think the Giakoumakis one I've tried to explain. Have you got any sort of ideas to why Kyogo's maybe not quite the same confident self in front of goal as what he was before? It is a wee bit odd.
I think he always has been a 1 in 5 finisher, Bhoycie. I think he gets himself in such good positions that if he was scoring them at the rate that he should be scoring them, he'd be playing in the APL. I think that guy should score every match 3 or 4 goals. If he scored the chances that he's got the ability to tuck away, he'd be scoring 3 every match. The guy just is so good at getting himself in good positions. His finishing does let him down. We've all said before, we don't get that player that doesn't have bad games and bad spells, because they get to that level where they just get, sorry to say this, to just get above our station, you know what I mean? And they have to go to a bigger league and sometimes a bigger club. But I think the goal scoring through the team is dropped a wee bit. I think sometimes overconfidence. You get that much confidence in the ability of the system that sometimes you kind of revert to walking into the back of the net. You don't shoot as instinctively as you normally do. You try to make that extra pass, and that can lead to overconfidence and you score less goals from it, even though it's ironically the opposite effect. But what we're doing is, when it really matters, we're stepping up. And that's the important thing just now. But with VAR being in place and the fact that we're not scoring as many goals as we should, you can't keep on relying on those moments of magic. You need to step up and
take your bread and butter.
Take your bread and butter, boys. 1-2-0 at half time, then come out, finish it half early in the second half. I'd rather that every week, mate.
I like it, Mark. I like it. Connor, Steve O'Mac comes in. Brilliant as always to have you on the bus, Steve O'Mac, mate. Big legend. And he is saying, unpopular view. Well, we're used to that on the bus. I wouldn't worry about that, mate. But regardless of it being a friendly, in other matches, we've rotated to fringe players, and it appears that the fabled squad quality and depth isn't actually there. Welsh, Gucci, Seagraves. What's your thoughts on that, Connor? Has it been a case that we've signed players and thought, oh, look at the depth we've got, and then you go, look at our bench, but really the reality is when some of these guys get their game time, they are actually a wee bit off the standard that's ever going to be required to be Celtic players. Is the squad depth quite what it was? I feel, if you want my tuppence worth first, was we signed too many padding players in the summer again. Very much. We had to bulk up the squad the summer before. This summer, I wasn't quite sure how it ended up feeling like. We were kind of doing summer 1, Mark 2, just a smaller volume of players, but again, players that were coming in to complement the abilities that we had there, as opposed to surpass it.
Aye, because you look at the 2 transfer windows we had last season. In the summer, we signed, the Kyogo, Jota, Carter Vickers. They were the main 3. Joe Hart obviously came in because they needed a goalkeeper, and I feel like that was kind of more like a happy accident, because I don't think Ange would have necessarily been 100% about signing Joe Hart. I think he was maybe given the option. Do you want to sign Joe Hart? But all right, okay, I'll go for that. And it turns out Joe Hart came in and was absolutely brilliant for us. So, and then we had the transfer window in the January where, the bombshell, the mic drop was like, right, we're signing these 3 boys for Japan. 2 of them come in. One of them looks an absolute baller, Rio Hatate. Daisuke Maeda comes in, looks like the fastest man alive to play the sport. And Ideguchi came in, who had a good bit of pedigree behind him. He played in the EPL, even though it didn't really work out for him. Went on to a couple of clubs across Europe. But on his day, he was meant to be a very good player, but it's kind of just not worked out for him. And then obviously his first game, he came in, I think he got injured. And we also signed Matt O'Reilly. So I feel like the summer transfer window was mainly, I think all focus was kind of like getting Carter Vickers and getting Jota. And then when those 2 were done and confirmed, I feel like it was like, oh, we can relax now. Okay, good. Okay, right, what do we need now? Right, okay, we'll just get this done. I feel like we weren't as proactive as we should have been, and I feel like that might become at the forefront of Angie's mind, because he's saying he's wanting to be aggressive in the transfer market in January, and he's planning ahead. So I feel like we could be getting, a kind of similar January to the one we had last season, which I feel is...
Which was impressive. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like we obviously... we did kind of... It's kind of like... I don't know what it's like, the fucking old cartoons where the fucking water's coming in the hole of the ship and they're trying to plug up their fucking fingers. I feel like that's kind of what Aaron Moy is, in that situation. That's kind of what it's kind of just been like, right, we'll take it, fuck it, let's just go for it. But one thing I do need to say is that we were talking about Cooler a minute ago. Is he makes all these brilliant early runs and no one's really picking him out. When Tom Rogic was in the team, he was being able to pick him out, and you're seeing, O'Reilly or fucking Moy and that just doing like Simon Turnbull, who's fucking turns about as slow as fucking milk, man. But I feel that, honestly, I know he wanted to go to Pastures Green, but it turns out to be fucking West Brom. But I feel like if he still had Tom Rogic in this team, I feel like he could still be playing very, very well for us. But I know, I miss him. I really do miss him. I miss him. I miss the big Aussie bastard, so I do.
Right, on that note, we've been an hour and 10 minutes. It can be time for only one thing. And that's that's right. I'm beginning to get a wee chill in the air right now, Phil McGinley. I'm beginning a wee bit of chill in the air. Oh, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time for what is now Judgment Thursday. On the T.N.F, we bring you Judge Ellie!
Oh, what a tee up. Love it, mate. Love it. And this one is normally I go down a moaning route, but this one I'm going to be trying to be a bit constructive and restructive and talk about Scottish football in general and just the think tanks in place at Scottish football. I think we hold ourselves back in this country by not looking outside the box. I'm going to give you a couple of examples here and bear with me on this. Like, for instance, the VAR, our manager who's coached in Japan and Korea, he's saying, like, for instance, we've brought this VAR in before it's ready. You know what I mean? We've brought in the kind of diet version, 6 cameras instead of 32. It doesn't include the goal line technology. You know what I mean? After match day 4 of it, we've got cameras pointing to the dugout rather than pointing to the 18-yard line. We're just not innovating. We're not trying to push the boundaries on anything. We're very much behind the ball on everything, and that goes right down to our stuffy board members in the SFA and SPFL. For the very, very top tier game to the very, very bottom, it's very much like we don't want change, we don't need change, and we don't welcome change. I think, like say, last week alone, Celtic, it was very quietly did. I like the fact that it was quiet. Celtic this week, we spoke about it. I did a wee segment on it before about alcohol in stadiums, and Celtic have had a licence on Saturday for, I think they picked the right match. I've lost county, low level, low risk security match for the club, which we said would be the way ahead. You know what I mean? I don't think alcohol a game against Hearts is a good idea. Alcohol in the smaller games, I think it's alright for Celtic. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything wrong with me having 2 pints in a kind of a game against Ross County. You know what I mean? Games against Rangers, I think I might spill over and, you know what I mean, and start to enjoy myself, heaven forbid. But no, but you don't think, we spoke about it earlier on, and now, we might be just before guys in a podcast, but what we are, if you want to look at it as black and white, is we're customers. Now, any industry that doesn't talk to their customers and get feedback and move with the times is doomed to be stagnated. Now, every season, I fill in the form. They give every season, they give you a customer performance or email, and you speak about the things you want to speak about in the SPFL. They ask you questions about pricing and things like that. Nothing happens to it. It's like when you leave a job and they ask you why you left. It doesn't matter what you say. Nothing's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's same old shite for the same old people. We've got a board that probably, we've got an SFA that's probably run by the same principles and rules that was in place in the early 20th century. That's how far back our roots go in terms of how stuffy we are. Yep. We change our board members every season. We don't have, like, they give the Celtic board one season, they give Rangers the next, they give... It's a draconic setup, mate, and it just doesn't work. I think we spoke about it earlier when we talked about players in academies in Holland and England. See, in Germany, they had a very bad World Cup a few years ago, and their decision was to tear it up and start for the start. Look at them now. You know what I mean? They go to a World Cup not long after that final. And Scottish football needs to start to do a self-assessment. A few years ago, they hired the darts promoter and the boxing promoter. What's his name again? The guy who runs it all?
Hearn. It was his dad, Eddie Hearn's dad, Barry Hearn.
He
came into the
Hearn.
SFA. He spoke to them all, and the biggest mistake the SFA made was letting the journalists in, because this guy told a few home truths. He said, "Listen, I'm going to be honest with these guys. If I was in charge, I'd sack a lot of these.
That's right.
I sell a product, a dartboard, and I sell tickets that's 50 feet away, and the guys can't even see the darts being thrown, and I manage to sell it out every week. I promote the game to the maximum of its ability." And one of the things he spoke about was alcohol in stadiums. For talking sake, it's restriction of trade, and that goes back to the customers' enjoyment of the product. I mean, Bhoycie, Phil, Connor, we've got a product that can grow exponentially, but we don't allow it because we're stuck in this stuffy system that can't look beyond its own back garden. We can't look at what works in England. We go to look at England, right? For the country its size, they do everything at a double A standard. And whether that's promoting the game using Sky Sports or just anything they do in sports, they do it to the very, very peak of their ability. Now, that might come for extra investment. We all know that. But that goes up gradually by your expectations and your ambitions, basically. The Celtic can't do that for themselves. Celtic can't have a board that's at a very high level, and Rangers too, although they can't do maths, unfortunately, but they can't have a board members at a very high level, and they're flinging these ideas to boards that aren't interested in making changes. Everything in this country is suspicious. Everything in this country is looked at we whistling in it for the other guy. At what point is this league going to get to before we have to admit that we're doing something wrong, that we're not maximising ourselves? Whether that's alcohol in stadiums, whether that's how we set up our youth system, whether that's how the SFA sell themselves in the European stage, how many referees are bringing through the system, who's not getting fast-tracked, why are they getting fast-tracked, why are we bringing in things that aren't quite ready yet, bringing it in mid-season, on the rush, on the cheap. How can we expect Sky Sports to give us the money that we're banding about that should be getting given to Scotland when we're playing with AstroTurf pitches, when we're dishing up referees that make up rules halfway through a match, like last week when the referee the goalkeeper dropped the ball and picked it back up again? How can we sell a product that we don't take ourselves seriously? I'm not going to be able to fix the problem. None of us are. The only people that can fix the problem is we're customers. Let's just take away the fact that we're football fans. If they want to treat us like customers, they need to start listening to customers. Any business that doesn't look at the customers, look at their demands, look at their wants. The first question I'd be asking, see if I was a football chairman, the first question I'd be asking is, why am I looking at my stands and seeing Real Madrid shirts, Barcelona shirts, Stoke City shirts in my stadium on a Saturday for the ones that are turning up? It's because we're not capturing the youth's imagination. Now, I don't blame young boys and lassies for watching the EPL, watching La Liga, because it's glitz and glamour. But what are we doing to attract these guys? Is each club get their own app? Is each club sending out daily digital briefs to their fans? Are we engaging with young fans in the internet the way everything is done nowadays? Are we maximising how we do that? Well, no. The reason why we're no is because we're sitting back, watching the world grow bigger, and sitting thinking to ourselves, well, somebody one day will drag us along with them. We'll just wait for that day. And I don't think that's the answer. I really don't think we as a nation are strong enough or have enough think tanks in place where we could just wait for everybody else to make decisions for us. We need the innovators. Scotland as a country invented penicillin, fucking corn flour, everything you name it, we invented it. I mean, these guys just seem to don't exist within football.
It's very interesting.
And sorry to go on about it, but I think, and see, until we open the window and just see what's out there, we're never ever going to grow, Bhoycie. And I think us as a fan base at Celtic, it's so frustrating when we see the infrastructure of your club, the fan base, the 15,000 watching Celtic in Australia, and there's no invention, mate. We're looking at it and we're saying to ourselves, see the same product placement just now will only grow in Scotland if the market takes it there and we get to a low level of that. We don't grow the market, we don't innovate, and we don't speculate. Until we understand that, we are doomed to fail, mate.
I think it's brilliant. Some of the points you've raised. I mean, a couple of takeaways I've got for the get-go. I mean, it shouldn't just be, a club like Celtic who is forward-thinking, having to picture these ideas. I mean, but Mark, that was highlighted none more so than I genuinely was looking at it as a feasible reason last week for us to have better VAR if Celtic just paid for it outright and just paid for the better standard. That sums it up. That would have crossed my mind as being, well, maybe that's just the way forward. We'll just need to do it for them because you're not going to get the decent one. When it comes to the youth engagement, I think you make some brilliant points. Again, you want to talk about the promotion. I look at stuff like this, Mark. I go, fan zones outside the ground. I'll tell you why fan zone would be difficult, because you would need to go through all these application processes through backwards councils, backwards SFAs that go, oh, come no sure we want football fans congregating from 12 o'clock. I went to an Everton game. It's the only EPL game I've ever been to. It is so narrow around Goodison Park, yet still right beside the ground they managed to get this fan zone. The kids are there, mate, from, I don't know, midday, let's say. And there's bits where you can shoot into a goalie, you can win a football strip, and all these sort of wee different things. And it's probably just a couple of quid here, a couple of quid there. It's all going in the coffers, mate, firstly, right? So it's boosting the club, but it's also bringing that community back. That's where, see all those kids, they're going to find their heroes within Goodison Park. I will take umbrage with the Stoke City one because I'm not giving you that. There's no way you've seen anyone in a Stoke City shirt.
I know, I was actually trying to prove how ridiculous it can be, because
I get you.
You said there about the fan zones. See, the only thing stopping the fan zones, it's not because there's a history of that not working in Scotland. It's because they're just closing the door on it. No, don't ask for it. Don't ask for it.
Mate, of course.
And why is it? Why is it just so acceptable that we can't be trusted? It's just.
Like, I'll tell you why. Because we're looked at as scum. Football fans in this country are looked at as absolute scum.
Class. Yeah, of course we are.
The fucking government, the SNP, they look at us like lower class citizens. They're all happy for the fucking gimps that go watch a rugby, in the offence if you like rugby, whatever. Fucking chugging fucking cider at each other's arseholes up in fucking Murrayfield and that every week. Fucking as much alcohol in that as they want, wearing their fucking kilts with a fucking Glasgow uni accent. Honestly, they're fucking more than happy for them to go and have an absolute great time and, promote it. And Nicola Sturgeon's going out there and fucking taking pictures of the rugby and that. And it's just, it's honestly, it just angers me because you shouldn't be ashamed of Scottish football and the product that we can give. There's no other game in the world that is like a Rangers Celtic game, and there never will be. I don't care. You can say fucking El Clasico, you can say fucking Liverpool Man United. Not a single game in God's earth will come close to the fucking Celtic Rangers game for the atmosphere, for the fucking what it means to the fucking people, to the absolute core of their being. I don't care. And even you see some of the fucking funniest shit you've ever seen on the planet in the Scottish League, and whether that's down to us being dinosaurs and doing things the wrong way, make fucking bank on putting a fucking compilation together and send them as fucking DVDs, and it'd be absolutely hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many examples of there being bonkers. Most of the folk talk about the Rod Stewart, the cup draw thing. But that was total by chance. So that was just he happened to be there that day. They had to be brainwave there and then to ask him. So it wasn't even like that was pre-planned. That's how pathetic it is. That's why I think he'd said but obviously, I'm having a few swallows. Like, you know what I mean? I'll do it, but if I think I'll play But then they thought, like, really outside the box. Remember they got Michael Buffer to do Celtic Motherwell Scottish Cup final.
That was great.
I just thought, do you know something? That was really forward thinking. I don't know which one of them, had a knock in the head that day when they came up with that idea, because that was really, I thought, wow, that sells the product. See, if you're an English football fan and you've turned on the Scottish Cup, see what it's like. There is a household name and voice that is world famous introducing our game. Guess what you get from that straight away? Engagement. The remote goes down. I'm going to watch this. What's all this about? And I just think stuff like that is so simple and such easy wins for for Scottish football. We spoke about Barry Hearn as well, Phil, and I'll come to you because I want your thoughts, obviously, on all of this stuff as well. But with Barry Hearn promoted, as he says, guys playing darts. I've been at the Hydro, I've sat in the stands. I wouldn't do it again. But at the tables, it's fucking amazing. But the amount of folks still in the stands quite happy to sit there and watch effectively 2 big screens of people playing darts, effectively watching a telly miles away from you. Tell me how that makes sense to pay 50 quid for a ticket, but you do. And it's because of the hype that you generate. Now, we talk about Sky Sports. Everyone wants to blame Sky Sports for everything. I think Sky Sports have extended their deal with them. They probably expect a bit of pushback from the people that they've got the rights to their game. They probably expected them to go, so are we going to have a podcast type show live on Sky Sports once every weekend? Either a recap show, but I want it with characters now. Look at the models that are working in Scottish football right now. Open Goal, for example, has took Scottish football and showed you exactly, whether we like them or whether you don't, I don't mind them, to be honest, but they have took content onto YouTube that should be SPFL endorsed content. That should be something we go, okay, there's bad language and that, but that's our game. And they're managing to get a crazy amount of hype. They're selling at the Hydro because they believe in what they do. They're actually kind of embarrassing the game that they're actually talking about, such as being their meteoric growth, if you know what I mean, over the last 5-6 years. Now, obviously, you then get to how else do you promote it? So you would be going to Sky, your TV company, you'd be saying, look, we need a proper highlight show done, right? In the mold of sports scene or whatever. And we also need a chat show. There has to be something that is going to be, and you need to be a bit of that confrontational style. And I think BT were very good at that. I don't think we can deny it. They did Scottish Football Extra on a Friday night. Sometimes there'd be a game after it. Sometimes there wouldn't. It didn't matter. They still did the show. And I just think with the way that not everything's studio-based now, even if it were in this sort of format, it would just be if it was getting some sort of slot in Sky Sports Football on a Friday night and you knew it was a Scottish football show. Suddenly these things can grow as well. I just don't feel that the promotion of it has... The broadcasters have a certain responsibility, but a broadcaster's only going to do its bare minimal when it's got its deal locked in. It is absolutely on the powers that be to push their broadcaster to be giving them more. We want more from this broadcasting deal. That could have been in it. What else is going to be in it? Oh, just the games, just the games. The other thing I was going to quickly touch on as well, which Barry Hearn does very well, is obviously sells tickets. Look at the ticket and the way Scottish Football Club sell tickets. They just keep putting up the prices. The only way they see fit is to protect, right? They protect what they've got. We've got, say, I don't know, you're still in Albion, and you've got 300 season ticket holders, 400 season ticket holders. Buy a ticket every week. Rather than reduce the price and maybe have 800 season ticket holders, they flap and they just keep it in a certain way because they think, what if we only get the 300-400 again and it's at a lesser price, then we've made a big loss. And until that changes, if you're trying to sell 4th-tier Scottish football at £16-17 a ticket, then you're fucking right. You're going to have kids in Real Madrid and Barcelona tops watching the telly because there's just pricing families out it. There doesn't seem to be any common sense. And one of the other things, this was done by the SPFL, remember, when they were trying to have a forward-thinking movement, Mark, was why don't we put all the grounds up to a 12,000 minimum? That's right. Capacity? 12,000, not 10, 12,000. Falkirk then couldn't get promoted twice. We're moaning about not promotion for the B teams. Falkirk couldn't get into our Premier League 2 years in a row because they didn't have a stadium big enough. What are these teams meant to do? They then reduced it, thinking, look, we've heard your concerns, so it's now 10,000. 10,000. So we've got clubs spunking money on seats instead of their team.
Never fill.
Instead of their team. And now you've got a product where there's always going to be empty seats unless Celtic and Rangers are there. And even then now, some of the club's fans don't want those grounds getting filled. Three ends by Celtic and Rangers fans, which is their gift. It's up to them to do that. But Phil, there's a few points of mine on what Mark's saying, but I think it's a brilliant point that he's brought up.
Oh, it's been a phenomenal Judge Kearney segment tonight. Again, Mark, superb, man. A lot of great valid points. But it goes right back. It goes full circle back to where it all started, and it's the people running the game that are the biggest problem. We've talked recently about the infamous European Super League and how it'd be a closed shop. Well, Scottish football, the SFA is a closed shop. Jobs for the boys at the top. They don't like change. They don't like all that stuff. Look at a few years ago, there was a proposal put on the table where the SRU and the SFA could have shared Murrayfield as the national stadium for Scottish sport. not just Scottish football, but for the whole of Scottish rugby and football. And the SFA decided, no, we'll stick with Hampden. But I remember that part of that was there'll be renovations coming to Hampden as well as part of it. Still waiting for it. There's no renovation coming. Look at down in England, obviously Wembley get knocked down. They built an entire new stadium. In Republic of Ireland, they knocked down Lansdowne Road and built the Aviva Stadium. In Wales, they built the Millennium Stadium. And up here, we got a new stand at Hampden for the National Stadium. That's the same thing. Like, go back and watch footage of Celtic winning the Scottish Cup in 1995 when Big Pierre scores. 3 sides of the stadium are the same as how they look right now, apart from the main stand that the tunnel's on. You know, let's go back to 1995, no, back to the 90s. That just shows you how like backdated it is, and you know, there's no innovation, no way to really push this forward. It's got to change from the top, and sadly, I just think it's a closed shop, and they won't allow outsiders in. I mean, it's not too dissimilar to what we saw in the 90s with the Celtic board, where it was a closed thing where they didn't like outsiders coming in. And I think it goes the same with the SFA as well. I think that is just the biggest problem at the core of it. How are we going to change it? How are we going to push this? You know, what Scottish football could be, because the potential's there. It is there, but some of the decisions you just said there was, I completely forgot about the 12,000 seater rule. Am I right in saying they changed it when Inverness Cali Thistle came up eventually? Where they thought, right, this is getting ridiculous now, and then every time Inverness were in the Premier League, they never had a full house, and their stadium's tiny.
I think they changed it, but there was still a minimum thing there. I think it's 8,000. I'm sure it got reduced to 10 or 8, and then it might be lower, but the damage is done by then. Clubs have invested. I mean, what are Livingston doing with a 10,000 seater Almondvale? What are they doing with that? Like, what are they like? Where could that money have been spent? You know, and then all it leads to is Livy don't get home games against anyone but Celtic or Rangers, because what are you looking at? Yellow seats. That doesn't really sell your product either. So you're going to catch 22 of your own fucking doing. That's the frustrations. But we will leave it there. That's been an hour and a half. Well, for us, it's actually been an hour and 45 minutes because we did a 15-minute show tonight without hitting the like button before we realised. I'm looking at the comments. The comments are coming going, oh, I think the bus is late tonight. Oh, I think the bus is jet lagged. I'm like, I think we've been on all right form. I think, well, and then I'm like, no, something's not right. So it turns out, yes.
So only fucking on.
The lights were on, but no one was home. But yes, it has been a non-award-winning show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's been great fun, though. All I would say is, you know, it's a far cry from 3 last year to only 1 this year. Good night.
Comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.